Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So I have the suspension lift installed, the new tires and wheels put on, and as soon as I did that, this thing has been running like crap, and I don't really know why. I think it's just a coincidence. Probably the gas has been sitting too long in the tank while I haven't done anything with this. So I'm gonna try and troubleshoot it with some YouTube mechanic skills. I think so far I'm gonna try and drain the fuel tank. Luckily I have a hatch on the rear that's already been cut above the fuel sending unit, so I can just pull that out without dropping the tank. I might try and drain the fuel tank, and then I also have a new fuel filter that I'll put in as well, and hopefully that will fix things. I've already put in some seafoam, and that's made it really smoky, but it hasn't really made the engine run any better. So stick around for this video. I'm gonna try and figure out why I can't drive this thing now and why it's running like crap. Stay tuned. Okay, to start, my dad had previously already cut a hole and covered it with duct tape. So I'm gonna remove the duct tape and hopefully get to the sending unit. There are better ways to do this. DBC Offroad actually makes a removable cover that I'm going to eventually get so that I can pop this off and on and be a little more safe with a metal cover. So let's open this up and then see if I can drain the fuel tank, and I'll show you what's inside. All right, let's see here. We can just pull all this. All right, there we go. Okay, so obviously this looks kind of gross, so I might actually just pressure wash this down before I try and open this up. All right, these are all 8mm bolts in here. And I've already disconnected the battery, so there's that. I'm gonna have to, this actually runs to a plug that's underneath the tank, which is gonna be kind of a pain in the butt to get that off. I'll just start with these and get all these off, and then we'll go from there. All right, I dropped the fuel tank just a little bit. I just released the bolts just enough so that I can pull this out. Now we're going to try and get these hoses off. Not too terrible though. This access hatch is too small, unfortunately. Good thing I ordered the Gen Right one online just a few minutes ago. So turn this. Maybe. Alright, I'll take a look in the tank now. See, the hard part filming this is all the reflection. So there's like a little bit of debris down here. The rest of the tank, I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell, but there's debris in this little collection area that I'll have to take out. If we take a look here at the sending unit, there's actually some debris in here that needs to be cleaned out. This hose right here is split just a little bit, but it looks like it's just kind of an outer shell. And then that piece that fell out actually goes here. It's like a rubber bushing. But this is pretty torn up. And then this rubber piece here is cracking and probably needs to be replaced. So I'll probably just end up buying a new sending unit. And that'll be the long-term fix. So I have a gas can or utility jug and a little pump, and I'm just gonna empty the gas tank as best as I can. As far as I can tell, that's about half full, so it's about 19 gallons, I think. That's only 5. We may have to do a couple runs. This has become more of a pain than I want to deal with, but old Jeeps, right? So after I drain the tank, I want to replace the fuel filter to make sure that there's no debris that's going through. And then we'll see if we can put fresh gas and fire it up, and cross the fingers, and hopefully that takes care of it. I got all the gas out. I just had to use every gas can I had. Inside the tank there's still kind of, it almost looks like sand or something in the bottom of the tank. But for the most part the fuel is out. So I'll have to drop the tank eventually regardless, but this is everything that I pulled out of the tank that was within reach with some pliers. And another thing I noticed is the gasket on here is actually cracking in a couple spots. So I went ahead and bought a new sending unit. Okay, so I just went ahead and bought a new sending unit. Luckily there's Summit Racing in town, and I just went down and bought it. I just unpackaged it. The only thing I'm a little concerned now is these are slightly different. So the one on my right hand, the little float valve is sticking out to the right, and then this float valve crosses, and then this piece right here, it can't be oriented straight, which I'm worried maybe won't line up correctly inside the tank. So we'll see how it goes. I'll put this thing in and see if it fits correctly. Alright, new gasket on the top. Fish this guy down in here. This hole's not big enough. This needs to be bigger. What's hard is this bottom portion right here has to line up directly in that little dish that's at the bottom. And so essentially I just need to be able to move it forward. We were able to pull this one out because I could twist it in. I'm gonna try putting the old one back in just to see if it's easier, and then I might have to wait to put the new one in until I get that new cutout that I ordered from GenRight. Well, it's annoying because the old one fits. I'm gonna have to wait until I cut the bigger hole. And try one more time. We'll see off camera. I'll have to drop the tank, or, well, I'm gonna drop the tank and then I have to install that plate. So for now, this isn't ideal because I was just at least draining the bad fuel. I don't think there's anything wrong with this ending unit. It's just getting old and falling apart. So I'll put the old one back in, see if that does anything, and then I'm going to change the fuel filter, put fresh fuel in, and then see if that changes anything. And if not, I'll just wait until I get the GenRight part. So I'll put the old one back in, and then we'll move on to the fuel filter. All right, new day. It's been about a week, and I'm just going to drop the gas tank and do this the right way. So luckily, the parts for the GenRight gas tank cover access hatch came in. They shipped really fast. They actually came in about half a week. And so I'm going to cut that out and then put the panel over the top. That way it'll just fix this issue in the future. And then an additional benefit on the shackles in the rear. In another video I showed you that they were hitting, the springs are hitting the frame. So I'm going to put some extended shackles on while I have the gas tank dropped, because you have to work the bolt towards the gas tank. A lot of people cut it off, but since I have the gas tank dropped, I'll go and just replace those bolts with new bolts and bushings in the frame. So lots of birds, maybe a few stones, but I'm gonna get the gas tank dropped. I'm not gonna do a video on that because Jeep Solid actually has a really good video on how to drop the gas tank. There's actually a couple others as well. So I'll link a couple of those videos in the description, and then we'll come back once I've got the tank dropped. And just like magic, 20 minutes later, it's out. So now it's time to finish draining it, the last like little drops. I want to clean out all that debris that I showed you inside and then clean all this up. There's a lot of, some of the fittings on here I might have to replace. I might have to replace these lines too. So there's a little more work, but the good news is it's out. So now I'll start all these other side projects. Come along on the journey. Okay, so here's the fuel tank line, and that's where it goes up there, and then it transitions over to here, and you can kind of see back here underneath the skid plate, that's where the fuel filter goes. So I'm gonna take out all the lines and replace the lines, and then I'll work on getting that fuel filter out, and I'll show you what that's like. All right, before I get too carried away with messing with the gas lines, this bracket with the Gen Right hatch cover comes bare metal, so I'm just gonna hit it with some spray paint, some black spray paint, and then while it's drying, I'll mess with the fuel lines. All right, first take these hose clamps off. Pull those lines in a second, but first I'm gonna work on these here. All right, there's the fuel filter. God, it's so dirty underneath here. Gross, gross, gross. So I'm probably gonna have to replace each of these little fuel lines too. Man, there's a lot to replace as far as fuel line goes. All right, I'm just gonna start taking some of this stuff apart. And it's probably gonna send fuel everywhere, which is annoying. Oh, here, take this clamp off. Of course, I need a wrench on the other side. All right, I got this off. It's kind of stuck on the other side. Everything's so dirty. Got these loosened. There's probably gonna be some gas going everywhere. Oh boy, can already tell. Ah, not too much gas. Oh, yep, that had a lot in it. Good times. Well, might as well keep going with the other. Just keep spilling gas. It's fine, it's fine, it's fine. All right, so this is kind of interesting. I disconnect from the other side, but to get this little block out with the hoses, I think I'm gonna have to undo this body mount bolt. Problem is I don't have an impact that's a 16. Yeah. It's not too bad. All right, got it. Okay, the fuel line's removed. I capped off the gas line so there's nothing that's gonna catch on fire. I even covered it up underneath. Let's cut this out and get this installed. All right, so underneath here, my dad had already cut this hole, probably just from some forums online. But underneath here, there's a little bit of a rib that you don't want to cut past that. So this top line, I'm going to use that as the top line. And basically this top piece here is just going to fit into that. And then line it up. And I'm just going to mark the inside of this with a Sharpie. And then I'm going to have to cut a little bit extra. Just make sure you don't cut the outside edge, because then this piece will just fall through and you've wasted money, I guess. So this is about 3/8 of an inch. So I'll measure out just a little bit and then get to cutting. All right, well, it says a cutoff wheel. I'm going to try one of these with a metal blade and see how this works first. All right, this is actually going to be easier if I drill a hole. There's an additional beam that goes through right underneath here that's having a hard time with. Well, I didn't quite cut enough in any direction, so I'm gonna have to clean this up. Do that off camera and we'll come back when I get this correct. Holy smokes, I got it, finally. All right, now I need to clean up all the edges underneath, and I don't have silicone. That's something you need, is silicone underneath here before you drill all the little rib nuts to attach it. So we'll go get some of that, clean up everything, and then come back and put it in for real. Okay, time to quit messing around. Got the RTV, put a big old juicy bead on the top of this. And we got the rivets. We're just gonna get this going. See how this goes. Probably like everything else that I do. All right, my squeeze tip wasn't big enough, so. All right, let's try second tube. I'm not even gonna use that nozzle because that's really not helpful. All right, moment of truth. I don't know, probably could have used more, honestly. It's leaking out just a little bit down here, but I'll just start putting in the rivets. Most of these are in. I'm gonna have to drill another hole, and then I'm gonna have to fix that underneath. Actually, let's go take a look underneath and see what that looks like. All right. Look around the edge. It actually looks pretty decent. I might go back underneath here and just clean up some of this down here, add a little more RTV. But so far, so good. Okay, I take that back. Upon further inspection, I don't know that these rivets are actually going all the way through. So really, I think they should have been longer. And I might have to drill them out eventually and just put longer rivets in. All right, so this is what I'm talking about. So the grip range, you can see on this box here, this one on the top, that's the rivets we were using. And I know that these are getting a little bit thicker, but the grip ranges are longer. So I might have to drill those out just to get better grip range. I'll deal with grip ranges later. Right now, I just want to see if this will fit. I'll put the other screws in later, but so far, this is pretty awesome. Now, let's get the gas lines going and get the fuel tank in this thing, and I want to get it running. Let's go. All right, I got the new fuel filter in. There's actually a mark on the side of it that says in, so it's coming in from the tank and going to the engine. And then I'll just put the skid plate back on, and then we'll move on to the fuel lines at the gas tank. All right, as you can see, I have new fuel lines set up here and a new vent line going through, and then the other side, we'll work on that. All right, on this side I have the new hoses are going to go to the tank once we put it in the tank, and a little new vent filler, and then the plug for the fuel pump. So we're very, very close. Okay, so the gas tank is all cleaned up. I put in new vent hose with the vent valves here, and I'm just going to put it back in. Yeah, just put it right back in. Oh boy, this dang exhaust is in the way. I'm gonna have to cut that out of here. Okay, real quick, I haven't quite attached the gas tank in yet because I wanted to leave a little bit of room just to show you that the exhaust is pretty pinched in here. And then something that's also really important is your filler hoses are gonna be right here, and you don't want to break those off trying to get them past the frame here. So you got to be very careful with those. The point I wanted to show you is now that there's all this room here, you can reach down here and attach the hoses, and then I need to put the sending unit in so I can reach the plug to plug it in. So mock all this up before finalizing installing the gas tank and bolting it down. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can put this in now. Hopefully, all this extra room for activities is gonna help me out. So, put the gasket on. Ha! Fits right in there. And now the hard part is just lining up the gasket correctly. Nothing's easy. The gasket doesn't quite line up right, so it's gonna take a minute and figure this out. Got it. All right, I got the cable hooked up underneath. Had to crawl underneath the Jeep. Take these plugs off, attach the gas lines. I already made sure which one is return. This one's return, the big one is the sending. Ugh, it almost needs like a little fuel or something to just help feed it on there. Tighten these down. All right, everything looks good. Now I'm gonna mount the tank where it should go. Okay, I think everything is hooked up correctly. I have a couple gallons of gasoline. See how much I can spill on the ground. And then we'll see if we can fire it up and see what happens. All right, here we go. Moment of truth. Holy smokes, it's running. Guys, I actually got it running. I'm so happy right now. I actually, after I put the 2 gallons of gas in, I drove it down to the gas station and they have a smog station right there. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna run it through smog, see if I got it to pass smog, and it passed. So going over what I actually think caused it was probably just the bad fuel, but it was always a good thing to replace the broken down fuel pump or the sending unit. I wanted to put in that cover from GenRight anyway, and then the brake or the fuel lines were already eroding and falling apart anyway, so it's good to replace those. So everything I did, I'm glad I got taken care of, but I think the easy, cheap fix would have just been to drain the gas tank and put new fuel in. Regardless, I'm happy it's not something further down the engine, and that's all the fix was. So now all I have to do is the 12 other things that I have to do. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you again, and I'll see you in the next video.